thy God am a jealous God. Thou shalt have none other Tonks but me. There was no getting round Tonks's opinion of your work. Tonks was the Slade. Paul looked at his drawing. If he'd been dissatisfied before, he was dismayed now. As Tonks drew closer, his drawing became mysteriously weaker. Not only had he failed to explicate the form, but he'd also tried to cover up the failure with all the techniques he'd learned before coming to the Slade: shading, cross-hatching, variations in tone, even, now and then, a little discreet smudging of the line. In the process, he'd produced a kind of drawing that at school, and even later in night classes, had evoked oohs and ahs of admiration. Once, not so long ago, he'd have been pleased with this work. Now, he saw its deficiencies only too clearly. Not only was the drawing bad, it was bad in exactly the way Tonks most despised. More than just a failure, it was a dishonest failure. He took a deep breath. A second later, Tonks's shadow fell across the page, though he immediately moved a little to one side so that the full awfulness could be revealed. A long pause. Then he said, conversationally, as if he were really interested in the answer, "Is that really the best you can do?" "Yes." "Then why do it?" "Why indeed?" Paul made no reply, and after a moment Tonks moved on. At last, from somewhere, a rush of anger. "If I knew how to draw, I wouldn't need to be here at all, would I?" He'd shouted, though he hadn't meant to. All around, people were turning to stare at him. Without giving Tonks a chance to reply, he threw down his pencil and walked out. The corridor, empty between classes, stretched ahead of him. Its walls seemed to throb with his anger. The heat of it kept him going all the way to the main entrance and out into the quad. There he stopped and looked around him. What was he doing, storming out like that in the middle of a session? It was asking for trouble. And yet he knew he couldn't go back. Students were sitting in small circles on the grass, laughing and talking, but they were mainly medical students enjoying a break between lectures, and there was nobody he knew. He threaded his way between the groups and out through the iron gates into Gower Street. At first, he started to walk towards Russell Square, the nearest green space, but that wasn't far enough. He needed to get right away, to think about his future in unfamiliar surroundings, because although, in one sense, his spat with Tonks had been relatively trivial, he felt that it marked a crisis in his career, if you could call it a career. He'd been walking round and round the lake for over an hour. His shadow, hardly visible when he first entered the park, now trotted at his heels like a stunted child. Round and round the problem went. No talent, wasting my time, better leave now and get a job. Or would it be more sensible to wait till the end of the year? He'd always intended to spend 2 years at the Slade, and it seemed a bit feeble to leave before the first year was over. But then, what was the point of continuing when his work not only failed to improve, but actually seemed to deteriorate from week to week? It wasn't as if he had unlimited money. He had a legacy from his grandmother, a slum landlord of quite astonishing rapacity, who, by skimping on repairs and bringing up her large family on bread and scrape, had salted away a great deal of money in the box under her bed. What would her advice have been? "I've nowt to do with Nancy Boy stuff like that. There's no money in that, and if you've got tangled up in it, lad, get out as fast as you can." She'd been horrified when he went to work as an orderly in a hospital. Real men earned their living by their own sweat and blood. This was getting him nowhere. He found a bench and sat down, feeling the heat heavy on his shoulder blades. Craning his neck, he looked up at the tops of the trees, dark against the pulsing sun. Everything was flooded in lemony light. After a while, he straightened up and looked about him, and it was then that he became aware of the girl on the other side of the lake. A young girl, still with the childish blondness that rarely survives into adult life, was wandering along the waterside. She was about 15, dressed in the shabby, respectable clothes of a maid, her only ornament a bunch of purple velvet violets pinned to the crown of her black straw hat. Sent into service, he guessed, away from her own overcrowded home.